It's Friday, December 6th. Yesterday, Nelson Mandela passed away at the age of 95. We made a beautiful video honoring him, and today I want to talk about his life because, like I mentioned to you yesterday, I only really have an American's idea of what his life was like, and so I really wanted to do research into what his life was really about to get a better view of him. This is, of course, a brief and incomplete overview of his life, but I hope it will help us all better understand his troubles and who he really was as a person. Nelson Mandela was born in 1918, the same year as my paternal grandfather. He belonged to a ruling family of the Tembu people in South Africa. He was given the name Nelson at the Methodist school he attended. His birth name means troublemaker. He was the first of his family to learn to read and to attend a school. When he was still a young boy, his mother sent him to live with a chief of the Tembu where his Christian faith continued to grow. He also continued his studies, favoring African history in particular. He moved to Johannesburg, and in 1943 he decided to study to become a lawyer. He attended the University of Witwatersrand, where he was the only student native to Africa. This is the time in his life when he started to become interested in politics and revolution. He joined the African National Congress and was one of the co-creators of their youth league. He believed that the struggle to self-governance was to be fought by native Africans alone. In 1948, when a particularly racist group was elected into power by whites, the only people allowed to vote, segregation became increased with the apartheid. This pushed Mandela and other members of the African National Congress to become more radical and to really start to take action against the racism of the colonists. Over the next few years, Mandela rose in positions in the ANC. He became more and more radically active as he met resistance from the ruling government. He was being arrested and banned from traveling and public speaking numerous times, but it wouldn't stop him. In 1956, Mandela was accused of treason, and he fought it in court, being acquitted in 1958. This, of course, was not the last time Mandela would have to stand in the courtroom. Finally, finding no other choice but to turn to violence, Mandela helped to found a militant group that I'm not going to try to pronounce, but in English it means Spear of the Nation. Their original motive was sabotage with as few casualties as possible, but would move to guerrilla warfare and terrorism as a last resort. Mandela was arrested in 1962 after eluding police for several years with a warrant for conspiracy against him. In 1964, he was sentenced to life in prison and was sent to Robben Island, where he was given the iconic 46664 prison ID. Mandela stayed at Robben Island for 18 years doing hard labor and living in an 8-foot by 7-foot cell. He continued studying and worked with judges and prison wardens to improve the conditions of the prisoners being kept there. He was moved to Pollsmoor Prison in 1982. In 1980, a movement began to fight for his freedom, but he was not freed until 1990 after spending 27 years in prison. He worked successfully alongside President F.W. de Klerk to allow equality in governmental elections and to stop the apartheid. In 1994, Nelson Mandela was elected to presidency, the first native African to become president of South Africa. That same year, his autobiography, which he worked on through his prison sentence, was published. During his presidency, he tried to fight racism and the tension between blacks and whites, and to increase the well-being of all South Africans by improving their healthcare system and by battling poverty. After his presidency, he focused on charity work, and even when his health began to decline at the beginning of the century, he still traveled internationally and did charitable work. Over the past 3 years, his health has been declining steadily, and yesterday he passed away of a lung infection. When Mandela was a great man, we must still remember that he was human and not perfect. He was accused of adultery and abuse by his first wife and was an advocate for violent terrorism as a tactic to overthrow the government. He largely made up for his faults after being released from prison by working to build his country up from the negative effects of the apartheid and racism, and by starting many organizations devoted to social work and charity. He's a great reminder that we are human and not everything should be considered black and white. We all have our faults, but throughout our lifetime, it is our task to make our strengths shine brighter. And I think Mandela did a really good job of that.